G'day and welcome to the Business Builder's Journey. Real stories from owners and senior leaders in trades, manufacturing, logistics and B2B industries. I'm Phil Badura. Let's get into it. Today, I'm with Sean Holden, Business Manager at SSO Storage based in Queanbeyan. Sean is the Manager of SSO Handling and Storage, specialising in business in handling and storage solutions, pallet racking compliance and operational safety. With nearly 2 decades of hands-on industry experience, Sean works with businesses across Australia to improve warehousing efficiency, compliance and a long-term storage performance through practical real-world solutions. Welcome, Sean.
G'day, Phil. Good to be here.
So, Sean, let's just start out. How did you and your dad get into business in the first place?
Bit of by accident, to be honest. I was still in school at the time. The previous owner, her partner had worked with my father in another business before he passed away, and she decided she wanted to take on Southern Shop and Office, which was our original company name, and asked my father to come in and manage it for her. I was still I think I was in year 10 at this stage, year 10 or 11, came in on after school hours and things like that to help out and slowly slipped into it from there.
Fantastic. And so, I think you've just identified the problem that you were trying to solve by coming in and taking over the business. What's one of the earliest wins that you can recall, and something that, one of those wins that told you were actually had made the right decision?
It's an interesting one. What made the right decision? Honestly, I think that there wasn't any one particular moment, if I have to think about it. It was just that we enjoyed working together so much. It wasn't really about the product or the business itself. It was that we got to work together, we got to work with good people, and we got to solve their problems for them by using our own knowledge and experience.
Yeah. About one of the earliest mistakes that you wouldn't repeat again?
Probably quickly hiring people that were close to us.
Okay.
So where there was emotional ties and things like that, it was when we did hit rough spots, it was very hard to let those kinds of relationships go.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's always difficult in business, and particularly around family members. And so, all right, tell us about a tough patch on your journey, and then how you dealt with one or two examples.
Well, most of us have gone through COVID, but before that happened, we actually had a building wall collapse, and we're in a rental property, and it's still up in the air on what the actual cause was, but luckily it had nothing to do with us. There was a fault in the rear wall of the building, and we ended up with about 70,000 tonne of dirt falling into our workshop and destroying all of our major machinery at the time. That was a big hurdle. Machinery to repurchase, insurance to go through, which all got rejected. Ended up having to call in favours. Building was shut down, looked like we were closed. And for a business like ours, where we had an online presence, but we don't sell online as such. Our major advantage for our clients of coming to us over a competitor was our personal experience, and that they could walk in and see us face to face. And this happened about a year before COVID. And so the on-flow effect of long-term clients rocking up and seeing construction fencing and thinking we were gone, and then having COVID where they weren't allowed to visit, it was a very long road to recover from that. So there was machinery replacements, relocating goods from different warehouses because we'd lost so much space, taking on additional storage space because we couldn't actually perform work in a lot of our main unit. And luckily, we had great relationships to rely on to help us get through that.
Yeah. And how did you manage to retain your customers during that difficult period?
A lot of them we lost, to be honest. A lot of them we managed to regain contact with, but it was a very manual process. It was a lot of reaching out, reconnecting over time, personal visits, going and seeing them, making phone calls and sending emails. A lot of very manual outreach.
Yeah. And how much of a part did resilience really play in that difficult situation?
Yeah, everything was about resilience. It was really digging the boots in, getting help, reaching out. We took on mentors and coaches to help us make some hard decisions.
Okay.
I had to go and get diagnosed and end up on medication. So I ended up with a pretty severe depression through that period. I had always known I'd had it, but that was sort of the breaking straw for me. That was a good year's recovery process at the same time. So it was very much had to make sure that we knew what our direction was, that we were willing to take the risks and potentially go completely bust and lose everything. And we had to make those gambles. We had to basically sit down together, my father and I, and decide where we draw the line, where was too much and what was too hard. And
Yeah.
we did that. We got very close to that line a few times during the recovery periods where we were digging in and doing 80, 90-hour weeks sometimes, just
Yeah.
boots on the ground, making things happen so that we could recover.
Yeah, it must have been really difficult to work through that, Sean. So, taking or keeping that in mind, what was the one thing that you did that helped you out? Well, gave you the confidence that you turned the corner.
Again, it would be hard to put it down to one thing. There was most of it came down to who we reached out to and who we talked to regularly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was keeping in touch with our regular recurring customers, businesses that we knew who had been through similar things, discussing how they'd gotten through it. We joined a few business groups where we could make relationships with other business owners and chat through things. And so I wouldn't say there was any defining point where we would say we recovered, because it's still an ongoing process. So shortly after that, we had bushfires in our area and a lot of our customers and suppliers were affected. A couple of months later was the start of COVID, and also I was in hospital with my wife giving birth to our first child while that happened, and the lockdowns and everything while we were still recovering. It's still an ongoing recovery now. We're still not at the same point we were back then.
Right. Okay.
There was
So
a
I
short
guess,
bounce back up period where I could say, yes, we felt like we'd fully recovered, but I'd say that only lasted about 2 months before COVID hit. So it was so brief, it's
yeah,
hard to remember it.
yes, yeah. So I guess the important thing here is that, between yourself and your dad, you weren't afraid to identify there's a problem and then reach out for help.
Exactly. Yeah. We knew that we had a lot of emotion invested in some of the big decisions, especially around shutting down parts of the business, removing product lines, removing services. We had to let go a lot of staff. So when the worst of it hit, we were up to about 12 staff members.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up coming back down to 6 full-timers, which was 50% of our business gone. And we'd only really just grown to that period over the previous several months. So it was
Right. Yeah.
really hard for us to make those decisions where we'd finally gone from being a 4-man team up to 12 and then having to suddenly bring it right back down to 6 and let go of a lot of the work that we were doing.
Yes.
There were a lot of very
Yeah.
hard emotional decisions like that, and having mentors and coaches that we could rely on to come in and help us make those decisions where we listed everything out on whiteboards and on paper and made those hard decisions to survive.
Yes.
Having that
Yeah.
outside input without the emotion to help guide us.
Yeah, really important aspect that. And so having gone through that process then, Sean, with the remaining team, how did you keep them motivated? Did you keep them on track with everything that was happening around you?
Luckily, we all know each other really well, so we're not a very divided team. Most of us have known each other 10 plus years in one way or
Mm-hmm.
another, through either friends and family or other business relationships. And so we were really upfront. When we were in our worst times, we would tell the boys that all the other guys pretty much every week, we'd be like, look, this week we're not getting paid so that we can make sure we pay you. Like
Right.
it
Yep.
was that bad sometimes that we were at a point where we were like, guys, we may not pay you next week. It's up to you whether this is where you draw the line. We were just very open. We'd let them know what work was coming up, where we were falling short, how tough we were doing it, and we gave them the rough numbers so that they could make their own decisions on where their risk lay. And we were really lucky in that they wanted to stay, and there were weeks where they were like, they'd say, look, we can survive this week without a pay. So if it keeps us going, don't pay us. Luckily, we never had to get to that point
Yeah.
through hard work. But there were some pretty tough times, and we were open about it. We were really clear with them where we were sitting. But they were seeing it happen with most of our clients as well. So they knew it wasn't something that we were all doing wrong. It was just the way business was at the time. So many people going under. A lot of our clients disappeared. They just don't exist anymore. So they
Yes.
knew it was going to be really tough, and they were willing to put in those hard yards and take that risk with us to help us all
Yeah.
survive.
Well, I guess, it's accolades to you and your dad and the team for having the resilience to work through it all and, one of the things that strikes me is that communication has been one of the key aspects
Definitely.
that has kept everything alive. So well done, Sean.
We were the same with most of our suppliers. Like think at last count, we had about 130 individual suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say about 30 of those are regular monthly suppliers. And we were just in touch with them all the time as well. A lot of them let us go 6, 7 months behind in some cases just to help us survive, just because we had those 20-year good relations and they knew that we
Yes.
were doing everything we could to survive, and that we were still chomping away at all of our bills with them. We were still paying them, but some months we were late, some weeks we were late.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they
And
let us do that.
that's the importance of building relationships in business. Unfortunately, business can be a bit like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it's how you actually ride the roller coaster that becomes important. So now that you've turned the corner and things are starting to head back on the right track, pardon the pun, and where's the growth coming from now?
I would say a lot of our growth right now is coming through reputation. It's
Right.
very much word of mouth still. So we don't do paid advertising. We're very much a word of mouth business. The majority of our business is through people moving from one company to another or expanding. So the majority, I think at last count, it was about 74% of our sales were from repeat customers.
Wow.
And in a
Okay, that's
business where
impressive.
things like pallet racking can last 20 or 30 years, there's not a lot of recurring sales there. So it's expanding on what they do or how we can solve problems for them. So that's where our broad range of experience has helped us a lot, in that someone might come in and buy a trolley from us and they'll notice that we also do racking. And so then we'll help them redesign their warehouse. And then that turns into compliance work and safety work, and it expands. Nearly all of our best customers started off spending $20 or $30 with us and expanded into being 30, 40, 50,000 K a year clients, some of them more, or coming in and solving problems that someone else made. So sometimes they might have bought something from another company that didn't do the job for them because it was an off-the-shelf product, and we've come in and been able to modify it or replace it or adjust it so that it actually works properly. And so it's that recurring problem solving that's really where we survive.
So you mentioned reputation. So other than the servicing and the problem solving, how have you built your reputation? What is it that your customers really, really respect about you in terms of business?
Probably the honesty. When we make mistakes, like everyone does, we own up to them and fix them straight away. We don't try to fob them off. We'll take the hit and we'll fix it, and then say, if you've got any other problems, we're here to help. We're not here to take advantage.
Yes.
And it does happen. You get the wrong notes during a site visit. You design the pallet racking system around a certain type of pallet, and then their supplier sends everything over, especially in new biz, and it turns out that it's a different size, and we hadn't done enough due diligence in getting that detail from them. Things like that happen sometimes, and we cop it on the chin, we fix it, and we keep walking. Yeah, that's probably where the majority of it's come from. And then just putting ourselves out there. We throw ourselves out on LinkedIn a lot and built our industry network that way. So a lot of companies in our industry are very competitive. They don't work well with others, and we're very much the opposite. We work with nearly every OEM in Australia.
Okay.
And that's because most people in our position in our industry are installs only and don't do sales, but we do all of it. And so that makes us a direct competitor for them as well as a contractor for them. And so it's a very tricky balance to run with some of them. But because of
and how do you manage that then, Sean?
Basically through honesty. Again, we communicate well. So quite often we might find that two suppliers are fighting for the same job in our area, and they both come to us, and we'll straight away say, look, we've already done it for this client. They came to us first. We're only going to be working with you both if it's under both your agreement. We're going to be upfront about it. And they've all learnt to really enjoy that, rather than any sort of underhanded, no worries, we'll quote it, here it all is, and then going back to the other person and going, hey, these guys are quoting, you might want to tighten up. We stay out of it. We're honest with them, and we'll say, we've been approached by you and you. Here's all the information. You're on an even playing field from us. We're not interested in playing sides or anything. We're really
again,
open
it
with all of that.
Comes back to communication again.
Exactly. It's all back to communication.
Yeah.
be open, honest, and we do really simple things like if we're doing a job on behalf of one OEM, we're not going to go and post photos that it's our job. We're going to go and post them and say with permission and say we've just performed this under this company's direction.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we're not taking. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a mind blank right now. We're sort of not taking the credit for someone else's hard work where we've only done the final polish. We're going to show the entire job and who was involved.
It's just making me think here, Sean, is you mentioned that you do a lot of solutions, problem solving and solutions for your clients. Can you think of an example of where you've solved a problem and provided a really bespoke solution that you're proud to say, wow, we actually solved that problem for them? Can you give
My
us an
favourite
example?
one is actually about 15 or so years ago. We had a member from Foreign Affairs approach us, and their problem was that they have to do maintenance on passport printers every X amount of months. I think it was 6 months, but it was a while ago. And what was happening was these really expensive passport printers were being damaged in transit coming to and from embassies every 6 months or so. And I think it was something like $200,000 a year worth of repairs just due to transit damage. And they approached us to see if we had any handling and storage solutions to solve that. And we managed to come up with a box and lifter solution that removed all of the manual handling and palletizing of these printers manually for about $3,000 per printer. So year one might have, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was around 50 grand's worth of modifications and equipment that we provided, and it dropped their repair rate by like 97% or something in the first year. So they straight away 150K savings on a 50 grand investment in the first year. And we've never had to replace in the 15 years or so since then, we've never had to replace the equipment either. It's still functioning.
Wow, that's really impressive.
So yeah, my favorite one.
Let's just jump into, so if you could rewind the last 3 years, what would you do differently and what would you do sooner?
I reckon one of them would be putting myself out there personally faster. So in the past, I've always very much been SSO as SSO. And over the last 3 to 5 years, we very much started retargeting how we do things as very much each member of the team themselves. So we're not a business face where people working under the business name. And I'm finding that a lot of clients are really enjoying that. They like to know that while I might be their sales contact, I'm also coming in with Russell and Daniel to start the job and introduce the boys. And then from then on, they know who everyone is. It's not just random installers coming in and doing the job. It's a core team, and they get to know us personally, and they know that whichever problem or question they may have during the install or during the solution building, they know that they have a hierarchy and who's in control of what and who they can talk to.
Yeah.
Rather than just being an office phone number and hoping to get put through to the right person, they have immediate names and faces to put to every job.
Absolutely critical. Yeah, being able to put a face to a name and, just personalizing every aspect of the business.
Yep.
And
even so far as on our website, it's our about page is about us and the staff by name, rather than just a page that says 45 years experience since 1986 and director of 20 years or something very generic. It's Bryson's been here for this long. Sean's been here for this long. Here's what we do and how long we've been doing it ourselves. Here's who we learnt from and the types of stuff that we do and why we do it.
I think that that's a really, really important aspect of business today, Sean, particularly, if we think about the younger generation coming through in terms of how do they buy, the first thing that they do is they'll go to the about page. They want to learn about who you are, what you do, what are the things that are important about yourself that's going to help them make that decision to then go the next step towards a purchase.
I feel like it's very important, especially for industries that are safety focused and compliance focused, where
Yep.
an incident could cost a life, that they feel that they have trust in the person, not just the company. You can go to a
Absolutely.
company that has an incredible name, and if they send out someone that's brand new that you've never heard of, it can be an entirely different experience to getting the person you saw on the site and that you know has had the history.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
think it's really important that we put ourselves out there like that so that we can build that personal trust and know that long term it's going to be the same person coming out to do the same compliance checks and safety checks and solutions who came up with the original solution. You're not going to have a different person every couple of weeks or every year.
Yeah. No, really important. So what's one thing that you've learned about yourself on this business journey so far?
Probably that I've got undiagnosed ADHD, I reckon. I can get very distracted by new and shiny things sometimes.
The good
Implementing
old
new,
bright, shiny objects.
yep, new systems, new procedures, new products. Yeah, I can sometimes dive down a rabbit hole and 3 days later I realise I've been building something that's only going to help one or two people. And it's while it might be
A-
great for those people, it's not always great for the business.
And by being distracted by the bright, shiny objects, what impact is that having on you? And then what impact is that having on the business in return?
Exactly. It can be very distracting sometimes. So I've got a really great admin now who, if they notice I've been heads down for a couple of hours, makes sure they check on me and that I'm focused,
Yeah.
because a lot of what we do as well can take a long time to design, and because
Mm.
it can be a lot of the time what we're doing is one-off bespoke solutions. You can very easily run down a rabbit hole solving someone's problem, and 3 days later, you're still working on that same solution and other
Right. Yep.
customers are still waiting. That's probably our biggest issue, is being such a small bespoke team. We have great experience and knowledge, but it's very core and tied into just a few people. So
Yes.
we can get very busy and very overwhelmed very quickly.
Yeah. So, you've identified you've got a good admin person there that is managing you. How else do you actually manage yourself to make sure that, well, hang on, is this the most important thing that I should be working on right now?
To be honest,
How do you manage it yourself?
it's an ongoing battle, to be honest. I've tried a lot of different ways and things can work some weeks and not others. I
Yep.
set a lot of reminders. I've got a lot of different calendars. So I
Yes.
run multiple calendars for different types of items so that I can keep them separated. I run a couple of different task lists, and the most recent thing I've actually done is built myself a completely separated task and to-do kind of system specifically for the business, so that I can have an idea or come up with a solution. And rather than doing it then and there because it's on my brain, I can quickly type it out and chuck it in this system, and
Hmm.
it can be sorted into categories, and I can leave it there until I've got time. And
Right.
then if
Yep.
it's a high priority, I'll get a reminder. So if it's something I want to implement in the next week, I'll get a nudge.
Right. So you're able to prioritize in that system.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I've got like core business function improvements, minor function improvements, new system ideas, new marketing ideas, product ideas, solution ideas. And I can break all of those down into different areas so that I know that if I'm in a bit of a marketing mood, I'm feeling really creative, I can go and grab a core task out and sit
Mm.
down with it for an hour. Whereas if I'm feeling a lot more numbers focused or design focused, I can go and grab a solution that we've been trying to come up with for a certain project. But we get a lot of weird ones where a customer might have a problem, but they're not trying to solve it at the time. They're like, hey, while you're here, we've been thinking about this and we want to do it better, but we haven't come up with a solution. If you think of anything, let us know. And that'll go into the sort of the back of the brain box, so that when we find something or see something, we can bring it back out and go, hey, we found this product from one of our suppliers that will probably do the trick if we modify it this way. And
Okay.
so we get a lot of weird stuff like that isn't really a customer request. It just happens to be something that they think can be better and don't know how to make it better yet. So we'll take that
Yeah.
on as a background task, and rather than a problem solving paid task in the front, and we'll try and come up with a solution. And then if we do, we can sell it to them later down the track.
Yeah. Sean, one of the things that you mentioned a little bit earlier and when we were talking the other day was that, whilst you do, the pallet racking type solutions, at the opposite end of the scale, you also help with the, retail type solutions as well. Can you
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about that?
So we're pretty much broad spectrum one stop shop. So back when we first started in the business, e-commerce wasn't a thing. Most of our industry had no web presence, and there was a thing called the central source. And we were one of the members of the central source. And it was almost like a buying group where there was about 30 Australian manufacturers, and they all went into the central source and provided pricing, and a set amount of distributors would distribute it. And we were one of the central members for the area. And because of that, and because e-commerce wasn't really a thing and web was still sort of growing up as a first reach for problem solving, we were the go-to for anything to do with handling and storage.
Right.
And that was from gondola shelving in retail shops through to automated systems in government departments and bigger warehouses, building workbenches in workshops, doing mezzanines in private garages. So we were really a one-stop shop in everything. And because I came from a construction and IT background of interest, with my dad being a mechanic and mum being in IT and web design and such, I was also doing cybersecurity and networking on the side, doing a diploma in that while I was doing this. I was learning to code, but I was also doing my construction apprenticeship. So I was doing bricklaying, landscaping, carpentering, just a broad range of everything. While I was part-time for the previous owner, I was also doing landscaping full-time and jumping through trades. I worked at an airport for a couple of years as a casual semi-full-time, and I got a bit of a broad range of knowledge in everything. And we were one of the only companies at the time also doing things like bed movers for hospitals. So I was learning to do the electronic side with the techs doing that. And so we got this really broad range of experience very early, and we're able to expand upon that bit by bit with different customers. Because there was no one really in the region willing to do it. And so we had a lot of projects where it was just people coming to us and going, we can't find someone who wants to try and do this. Are you willing to give it a go? And if I thought I could learn to do it, I'd start making calls, find someone to teach me, and we'd take it on. We'd start doing it.
Yeah.
And
so again, reaching out for help if you didn't have the answer.
So when the local hospital couldn't find someone to repair the bed movers locally, and they were getting someone to come in from Adelaide, and it was costing them a huge amount, we were selling them electric trolleys, and they were like, well, hey, it's probably not too much different. Is that something you can do? So I called the manufacturer and said, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do. I already work with these products. Do you reckon you can teach me how to do yours? Teach me the basic maintenance. How do I repair the motors? So they ran me through it. They taught me, and that was how we did it. We just learn it. It's not the kind of thing that requires a trade certificate or anything. A lot of the stuff in our industry is unlicensed and uncertified. And there is no way to go and really learn it. And so you really just have to make contacts and mentors and learn from them.
Yeah. Sean, what does the future look like for you, and what do you see as being the main challenges for your industry going forward?
For me, it's looking great right now. We're on a really good trajectory. We've been recovering really well, and we're coming into a really positive point for the business. The staff are all really good at what they do now. They're all improving their own knowledge, so growing and doing their own learning as well. They're loving their expansion of skills. But we've also got a lot of people that are coming to us for national work right now. More and more OEMs are tightening the way they do things internally and looking for external experienced companies like ours. And so things are looking really good. We're looking at expanding quite a lot over the next year or two. The industry as a whole is going through a lot of shift at the moment. AI and automation, robotics is going to make a lot of difference to our industry over the next 10 or so years, with the price of automation and robotics dropping while the ease of use for robotics and automations increasing. We're starting to see the narrowing gap between buying something like 2 or 3 forklifts or putting in an automated AGV. The gap is getting a lot tighter. So we're going to see a lot more robotics and automation over the next 10 years. And the manufacturers and OEMs who don't keep up with that are going to find it very difficult. And the installers that don't have the knowledge base and willingness to learn the new capabilities aren't going to be able to continue installing in the same method as they do now.
And how are you going to keep your team up to speed with these changes going forward?
At the moment, again, it's just through industry contacts. There's not somewhere you can really go to learn this stuff without doing a university degree or getting right into the manufacturing side. So it is mostly through industry contacts and keeping good relationships, doing their training and their courses on their systems so that we can keep up with their growth. So again, it's really very much to do with our relationships with the OEMs and suppliers and staying in a great spot with them where they want us doing their work. And so they're going to provide all of the training and knowledge that we need to do it safely and be compliant and good at it.
Well, congratulations, Sean, on, you've been on a real roller coaster ride, the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs, and, having the resilience, the communication, the customer service that you've, really paid some strict attention to. So well done. Now, where can people find you?
Best place is
link.
our website, ssostorage.com.au.
Yep.
Or give us a call. All the details are on the website. We're very open to speaking. 9 times out of 10, I find that we really need to have a conversation with our clients because the majority of people trying to solve these bigger problems in business, unless they're in a large corporation where they've already run through similar problems before, your average small to medium business is often doing it for the first time and they need that bit of help. And so a lot of what we do is focus on that communication, that training and education portion of finding a solution. It's not just while we have some e-commerce there, most of the time we find it's better to talk to the client than just have them jump online and choose their items and ship it.
Yep. And if somebody wants to reach out and get in contact with you, how do they find you on, say, LinkedIn?
Yep. I'm pretty sure my LinkedIn is Sean_SSO. Just going to double check that for you.
Yep.
But I'm happy for a phone call, 0424 243 514. Give me a call, shoot me a text, jump on WhatsApp, same phone number for all of it. I'm available on practically every platform there is, so just reach out. Always happy to have a chat.
Thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your story today. I look forward to following you on that journey into the future and celebrating the wins that you have along the way. If you're a business owner with a business story that resonates with this podcast and you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us. I'm Phil Badura, turning business dreams into reality. See you on the next episode.